Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The tricky NHL season has just ended. The Florida Panthers have won back-to-back Stanley Cups. And we will go through everything we were talking about all the way back starting in December. I will do that toward the end of this video because most of you cocksuckers aren't going to watch this beyond the first 3 minutes. I already know the way you are. So let's go ahead and let's go through this. Florida wins the Stanley Cup during the 166th season of the NHL. Now I want you to see this. We'll get to this. I'll go through this pretty efficiently here. But this was the original bet that I put back in late November. This was around Thanksgiving, I want to say. I put in the future for Dallas over Tampa Bay, $350, and I'll show you why we were thinking that was a possibility. Then I decided to put this one together because I was thinking Florida might win this in Game 5 on Donald Trump's birthday, and we'll get to why. I'll show you exactly why they won it in Game 6. But I parlayed that with the Thunder because I was thinking, the Thunder, do they win it? Maybe. They're a big favorite. So then what I ended up doing is I ended up putting $200 down on Mexico to win the Gold Cup. We'll talk about that in a moment. I thought, hey, this is the way I like to bet. Maybe the Pacers get it done. I might be regretting this if the Pacers lose. We'll see. They're one game away from elimination now. This was made when the series was 2-2. And then I put the Panthers to win the series 4-2 because it looked like they were going to get it done. So, yes, I bet on my own picks. So nobody should have a problem with me selling the picks on the Patreon. Speaking of the Patreon, by the way, I hear Zach, he keeps spreading all these lies about me, telling I'm making all this money on my Patreon. Dude, let me explain to you something. This channel is censored every bit as much as yours is. Not only that, I don't nearly post on Patreon as much as you do, nor do I do daily live streams, nor do I make YouTube videos, but maybe once or twice a month or every 2 months. And I don't beg for people to sign up to it, and I've kept mine at $5. I haven't raised it to $10. So ask him. Ask Zach to do this. Ask him to show you what he makes. Because he keeps saying that I'm making all this good money on my Patreon. Here's what I made. Here's my 2020, the amount of money I made on Patreon. This money here, pledged to creators, guess who's that's going to? Just take a wild guess. But anyway, my auto withdrawal for January, $285. February, $272. March, $250. April, $231. May, $430. The reason it jumps up in May is because people sign up for the Patreon live stream we do for the Stanley Cup playoffs each year. So then June was $278, July was $258, August was $231, September was $215, October was $225, November was $220, December was $183, January was $204, February was $193, March was $195, April was $191. Okay, so that's been that has been that's about what I make on Patreon. And again, come this May, it went up to like $300-400 again because again, people sign up for the Stanley Cup playoffs live stream that I will continue to do every single year until the day that I die. By the way, this money from Patreon, you know what it goes to? It goes to my $346 car payment every month for the 2023 Kia Rio I financed. That's where that money goes. So ask Zach to show how much money he made on Patreon in 2024 and where that money's going. Guarantee you he won't do it. He'll say you should be put through a wood chipper instead. So those are my bets. Are we good? Oh, and by the way, I know this is supposed to be a video in the Stanley Cup, but the reason I'm thinking Mexico might win this, they might win this because this is this Gold Cup, which is like they invite one guest and then they have the rest of the teams from North America and the Caribbean. The reason I'm thinking that is because Mexico has won 9 Gold Cups, right? Now, we know the word in gematria. If you're new here, we talk about the language of gematria, the ancient practice of coding letters into numbers that assigns a numerical value to any word or phrase. In the most pure cipher, the alphabetic order with the rules of numerology, football sums to 29, right? That's soccer. Soccer's football. Now, I want to show you this. Remember the LA riots that took place? The peaceful protests where they were burning down buildings, setting cars on fire, and shooting police officers? That's peaceful according to the media. So, when was the final? Oh, the final was. Oh, I know when it was. Yeah, the final was July The final was July 6th, right? It's going to be played in Houston. From the date of the peaceful protests to the final is exactly 29 days. And we know football's 29. 29 is the 10th prime. And if Mexico gets it done, they win their 10th final. And you just have to think about that too, like in Los Angeles, all of the people in LA, they're all waving Mexican flags. They all got like the mask on, so you don't know who the hell they are. It's like, who's this fooling? The people who love Mexico the most are the people, I guess, who don't want to live there. To me, that couldn't have been any more synced up with the Gold Cup, in my opinion. As soon as I heard about that, I'm like, wait a minute, all these people are out. Supposedly it's because of the immigration and that. It's like, so apparently we're just supposed to have open borders, I guess, and let anybody they want into the country. None of you cocksuckers better lock your house or your car when you leave for work or school. Anyway, it's hilarious. So let's talk about the Panthers, and then I'll get into why we had Dallas and Tampa, but most of you probably aren't going to watch a video that long. So this was the 166th time the Stanley Cup was awarded. Florida Panthers is 166. And I know I said this at the end of last year. We said, well, if Florida wins the Cup, they'll get their 70th playoff win. We know Edmonton Oilers is 70, and it's the 166th time. I should have just stuck with what I initially said. For you guys, when you run a Patreon page, I'm telling you, it starts to friggin' warp your mind. And sometimes you just go against like the most obvious things that are right there in front of your face because you don't want to believe it's going to be that simple. But this isn't updated yet, but the Panthers, they got their 70th playoff win in their 132nd game. America's 132. Edmonton Oilers is 70. That's why we said when the Stanley Cup was set up, yeah, it's going to be Florida. They're going back-to-back, 166 times, 70th playoff win. That's easy. And this also comes exactly 51 weeks after the Panthers beat the Oilers in Game 7 in 2024. That's why they won this game 5-1. So I talked about this a lot last year, just a rehash. Remember, the Panthers were established on Trump's 47th birthday, right? Like how they won 47 games during this regular season. They were established June 14th, 93, Trump's 47th birthday, like how he's number 47 right now. That's why we were thinking that they might win it in Game 5 on Trump's 79th birthday, which is the 22nd prime, like how the Oilers got their 22nd playoff series loss. But the Oilers, remember last year, they were established June 22nd, 1979. So from the anniversary of their establishment to the presidential election, remember November 5th was 136 days, and Stanley Cup is 136, and the Oilers got their 136 loss to the Panthers last year. We said, oh yeah, lock it up. That's going to happen. So, well, technically the Oilers, they were established November 1st, 1971, but that was in the WHA. Their NHL establishment was June 22nd, 1979, because somebody's probably going to fact check and be like, wait a minute, Luxie, you're a liar. I looked up their establishment date. It was 1971. Yeah, no, I'm talking about their NHL establishment date. Okay, so Donald Trump, right? Born June 14th, 1946. Now check this out. From the date of the election to this is why I do wish the NHL would release the Stanley Cup start date, because we were speculating when it was going to be, the 7th, the 8th, the 6th. It ended up being the 4th, right? Exactly 211 days after the election. Why does that matter? Because it's the 47th prime number. Like how Trump's number 47, like how the Panthers won 47 games during the regular season, like how the Panthers were established on Trump's 47th birthday. And again, Donald Trump, right? His home state is Florida. So it just makes you wonder, how long are they going to carry this on with the Panthers or even the Lightning during the Trump presidency, right? We know he's got some time left. So, I mean, we assume he has some time left. So it makes you wonder. Panthers 47 games during the regular season. And again, the reason, once it didn't happen in Game 5, we knew it was happening in Game 6 was because we said, oh yeah, Florida, the state of Florida is 180 years old right now. From the date of Game 6 to Florida's upcoming birthday, March 3rd, is exactly 259 days, which is 37 weeks, right? 259 divided by 7 is 37. So it's exactly 37 weeks. I'm like, yep, Stanley Cup 37, Edmonton 37, 181, the 42nd prime. Panthers close it out 4-2. That was obvious. I wish it was this obvious again to get it from the beginning of the season, because we know next year it's gonna tie into. There's a couple of teams I'm keeping my eye on, right? One of them's right here. Because we know Raleigh, North Carolina, they're the most 109 team in the league, other than, well, St. Louis is it, because next year will be the 167th time the Stanley Cup is going to be awarded, which is the 39th prime number. Now, everything New York is 39. That's what's interesting. And here's an interesting historical piece to marinate on, too. When the Rangers won the President's Trophy in 1992, they then lost to the Penguins in the Patrick Division Finals. They missed the playoffs in 93. Then they won the President's Trophy and the Stanley Cup again in 94. Could history repeat itself? The Rangers win the President's Trophy in 2024, miss the playoffs in 2025. What happens in 2026? We got to think about that. But the Hurricanes are definitely someone to keep your eye on. They got the 109 in the most pure cipher. You know, the other one, too, we know the city of Woke Angels is 109, so we have to keep an eye on them. As for the Stanley Cup as well in the Eastern Conference, we know the Capitals have the Stanley Cup number. If they made it, you know, and again, they overachieved all this year. So are they really going to be as good again? Are they even going to be a playoff team next year? Remains to be seen. I mean, look at the Rangers, but they if they made the final, they would have 157 playoff wins, the 37th prime number. So we got to keep them in mind. The most the most 39 team in the league is the St. Louis Blues. That would be a shocker if the Blues won the Cup or if the Blues got there. As we know, really the big ones in the East, you know, is basically Florida, Carolina, you know, and I guess you could say Tampa even in a sense. And then out west, you know, it's Colorado, Dallas, Vegas, and Edmonton. It's probably going to be those handful of teams. We just got to figure out who it's going to be next year. You could argue even LA, really, because LA, I mean, they keep losing to Edmonton in the first round, but Edmonton keeps going all the way to the finals. So it's like, okay, does that mean that the King, because the Kings would have been a lock had they lost in Game 7. They would have been a lock because they would have 120 playoff wins. We'd be like, oh yeah, they're winning 16 and getting the Cup next year. LA 37, Stanley Cup 37. 136 when it's always 37 and 136. You just have to figure out what way they're going with it. The difference is they've done a lot more 37 and 136 rituals this year. So let me bring up my 2025 Stanley Cup pick here. Where'd I put that at? I know I got that bookmarked. Okay. So what we were looking at from the beginning of the year was that this is the 108th season of the league. We know 108 was the 79th composite number. Tampa Bay is 79, and American Airlines Center, where the Dallas Stars played, is 108. So we know 214 is the 166th composite number. That is the Dallas area code. That's why we were thinking the Stars might do it. And they got the 13-6 against the Lightning, winning 4-2. So we thought, is that a sign they could win the Stanley Cup 4 games to 2? Well, the Stanley Cup did end 4 games to 2, but it was Florida over Edmonton. And this happened November 23rd, which was right around Thanksgiving. So again, I do always say putting a hash mark in between the number, in between numbers to make it fit is always a little bit cherry picking. Perhaps that was the example here. When am I going to learn, right? But we were talking about how if the Stars won their next game on March 20th, they would get their 33rd win, and then they could get their 37th in the finals. They did not win that game, and that was a little bit like, just like when we saw Dallas play Edmonton in the conference finals, we figured it was ending on JFK's birthday in Dallas in Game 5, and when Edmonton went up 2-1, we were like, and then Zach made it seem like we had Dallas winning that Game 5 over Edmonton. We're like, we were pretty sure it was ending that night. So please stop lying, bro. That's why you got an entire channel dedicated to exposing your lies. Anyway, like we talked about, it was the Stars' 57th season of play. Tampa Bay Lightning's the 80, the 57th composite number. And we knew the Stars could win the Cup by getting their 27th playoff series win all time. Everything's 27 with the Dallas Stars, right? Do the Stars wait 27 years now? That's something to think about because we know Dallas is getting a Cup in the future. It's coming. We know it's coming. They got too much talent on that team not to win one. It's coming. Do they wait 27 years? They very well might because everything's 27 with the Stars. Their first season in Dallas was their 27th season. The year they made the final against Tampa in 2020, it was their 27th season since relocating to Dallas. The last time the Stars and Lightning played before the Stanley Cup that year was the 27th day of the year. When Dallas won their only Stanley Cup in 1999, it was the year the league expanded to 27 teams. Joe Nieuwendyk won the Conn Smythe Trophy that year, who was the 27th pick of the draft. It's always 27. So we were thinking that's possible. And we saw the death of Ethel Kennedy, who was the sister-in-law of RFK, and we knew that she died the day that the NHL regular season truly got underway, the 10th, if you don't count the 2 games in Prague earlier in the year, I believe on October 4th and 5th, or maybe it was the 3rd and 4th between the Sabres and Devils. The actual season got underway in the 10th, and we saw her die. And then we said, Kennedy curse, which the Kennedys are known for, sums to 144. And we said, man, if Dallas wins the Cup, they'd get their 144th playoff win as the Dallas Stars. We're like, this has some legs to it. Ended up not being the case, though. And that's where you got – and Tampa, remember, they entered the season on exactly 124 playoff wins. And we said, well, if they make the final, they get their 136th. Stanley Cup's 136. So it had some legs to it. It wasn't meant to be. But anytime that's on the board, I'm going to tell people to put that future in. Should you have a future in the Capitals next year? Absolutely. Not to win the Cup, but to win the East. Have that future in. Because the Capitals are probably a huge payout to win the Eastern Conference, despite the fact that they had a good win. Maybe Ovechkin has one more ride. Who knows? Carolina, yeah, they're another team. Carolina, the Rangers, and the Capitals are the 3 I'm looking at the most. We know the Panthers are going to be in the hunt again. The Devils, they'll probably be a lot better if they have Hughes healthy in that. So we got some things to pay attention to. The East has won 2 back-to-back cups now. Do they go back to the West at some point? It's possible. Dallas, though, it could be the 27 years for them. By the way, speaking of the new Prime Minister of Canada, remember as well, what's his name, Mark Carney? How to make sure I spell it right. We know his name's 109. His name's 109. It has been the Oilers. That is one thing to think about with Edmonton. The Oilers, they are one of the teams with the 39 connection. So does Canada break the curse next year? It will be 33 years. Remember, Oilers got that 33 connection. Do they go back to the finals and win it? Could that be the year of Canada? It's not out of the question. If the Oilers don't get it done next year, it'd be like, man, how long's Canada got to wait here? Almost makes you wonder if they're going to have to wait 37 years. That's a possibility, but I think I touched all the main points I wanted to make. Come on, Indiana. Let's see if you can. I'd love to get my $5,800. I don't know if it's going to happen, though. Perhaps that was a dumb thing to include them. But I think Mexico got a good shot of getting it done here. Florida already got it done. That's one thing about FanDuel. When you get something right, they don't want to put that correct check mark on there too fast. When you get it wrong, they get that X up there real quick, though. Anyway, guys, we will. I'll try to keep an eye on some of these NASCAR races upcoming. Some of these football cups as well going on. We'll be doing that on the Patreon until football season gets here, and we'll be locked in on that. So if you're interested in the Patreon, if you made it this far in the video, again, the link will be in the description. It's staying at $5, man. I ain't going up on it. It's a lot more difficult to decode now than it's ever been, and I'm certainly not going to charge more money for mediocre picks. That's for sure. But I don't want to wait until the Stanley Cup final is set. I like to try to help people where they can hit it at like 80-1. That's what I like to do. Because if I would have waited all year and just said, "Oh yeah, the Stanley Cup, it's going to be Florida over Edmonton. Enjoy your 95, enjoy your $100 if you bet 105 for Florida to win it when the final was set." That's no fun. What's fun is hitting the big odds, man. Getting that, 15, 20, 25,000 bucks for only betting a couple hundred. That's what you want, as opposed to winning a couple hundred for betting a couple hundred when it's set. So we're going to keep plugging away. I'll be there again next April. I'll talk to you guys soon. Until next time.